So you come from like obviously like a very creative family. Like, was music always like a massive focus to the fam growing up? Like, was it always playing, or was it something that was just like you and sort of Billy got into separately?
It was always playing. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, there was never any great focus on you must practice all day. I was just like the sort of fun medium. I think I'd compare it to like in America, there's a big emphasis on sports, and like kids just grow up watching football with their parents, and then they start playing it in middle school or high school, and they, like I feel like it's like that for us. Like music was like the most important thing in our childhood, just from an entertainment standpoint, and we were raised like just on everything sort of music centric.
So like, does that mean that like the Super Bowl for American football, like your version of that in your household growing up would have been like the Grammys?
We pretty much watched the Grammys every year and just really enjoyed it. I mean, there's such great performances on the Grammys. I remember like the first year I remember really being like, holy shit, was the year that Bruno Mars kind of exploded. Like he did like Runaway Baby to open the show. It was like the day after Whitney Houston had died or something, and he was just like he was so electric. And I remember him like, he was very James Brown in that period, and he was doing the James Brown like step where your feet go like that, and I remember him sort of like chastising the audience, being like, "Get all your rich asses out of your seats." So I remember thinking that was pretty awesome.
I think
I was pretty pumped about that.
I think Bruno Mars is quite underrated. I think like his genius really will only come out like when he maybe retires or in the future, because he's done a lot of good stuff. Like, he's a great singer, he's a great dancer, he's a great writer,
great producer.
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
People forget that he's like produced great records.
I've got it stuck in my head already. So like when you obviously music being in the household was a big thing. Like, were you like you drawn to the guitar? Were you drawn to the piano? Were you drawn to the cello, the oboe?
I couldn't really play anything, and I was sort of encouraged to take piano lessons as a kid. I was like, I love the song. I was like, oh, I should take some piano lessons. And they were taught by a very sweet Italian man named Marco, who was doing his best. And I was, 7 or 8 or something, really young. And there's a way to learn something for fun, and there's a way to learn something for skill. And it was definitely like, all right, we're going to play our scales on the piano, and we're going to play them, backwards, and we're going to play the scale of G major, and we're going to play, and I like, there was no kind of, there's no joy in it.
As unenjoyable as that is, though, like, surely it must be very useful now, because it probably just is stuck in your head so much that you can probably like, blink in it.
You would think, but I think in my experience as a person maybe if I was older when I'd started, but at that age it was so sort of hard to contextualize in terms of its use that after like a half a year or something, I said I'm not enjoying these anymore, and stopped taking lessons. And to my knowledge, I didn't really pick up like the piano for another like 5 years, and I don't feel that it carried over in terms of its like,
you lost it.
Yeah, and the thing that ended up being very valuable to me was my dad just kind of, I said, Dad, how do you play this pop song by Gary Jules, the Mad World Tears for Fears cover, and he goes, oh, it's pretty easy, it's just an E minor, and he shows me the 3 notes that make up an E minor, and it's a G major, and he shows me that, and he goes, it's a D major, and he shows me that, and it's an A major, shows me that, and it's like, then you can suddenly play a song you love, and it's so contextualized. And then you go, how do you play Boulevard of Broken Dreams by Green Day? And your dad goes, it's the same chords. And you're like, no way. And suddenly you have like language,
Is your dad like a good musician?
Not to like slam him, he's like
yeah, go on, pull him out. We need to make this podcast interesting. We got to pull some fucking people out on it.
Yeah, he's a good musician. He's good. Yeah, he's very kind of studied in his like knowledge of it. But I think in terms of like I like I got really lucky. I have whatever kind of ear I have, my dad claims I got from his brother, and that is just that like without much knowledge of kind of written musical theory, if I hear a song, I can play it, and I can play it in any key, and I can you
I
know
used to hate people like you because I used to play in bands, and like there was a guy like that in the band, and he'd be like going, and it's this, that, and the other, and he would be able to like join in on songs that were playing on the radio, and I just like have not got that at all. I'd have to go to my room and practice the bass lines and like
right.
really rigorously go through it, and I'd just be like, how do these people exist? This isn't fair.
Well, there are people for whom it's much more developed than I feel that mine. I can play X amount of songs. Like for example, like a lot of Beatles songs have more ambitious inversions of chords and voicings, and so that often will take me like some extra time to go like, okay, what's that? Okay, there it is. But yeah, I mean, my dad, his knowledge of music is vast, but that kind of whatever that just sort of gut instinct translation of music is maybe less present in him.
I
But
met
he's a good musician.
I met your dad and I met your mom when you and Billy came over to do a piano session on
Yeah,
my show. Your parents are rad. Your parents are
they're
cool.
great. They're really good. My dad also. I mean, I've been aware of your show for a long time and was always excited when you play a tune of ours. But my dad is like he takes time out of his week regularly to really listen to your
Does he
show.
still?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him a shout out on Sunday.
He sent me and Billy like here's my favorites from Phil's show this week several times.
he told me that he told me like a couple of records that he'd sent to you and he'd sent to Billy.
Yeah.
And it was just it kind of blew my mind a little bit because like obviously I just sit and pick these tunes because I love doing that, and it happens to be my job as well.
Right.
But it's really weird when you know that somebody else to send it to somebody else, and even like a kick drum or a snare sound might influence somebody else and make it onto the record, and that's like I mean that makes everything a little bit more fun.
Well, it's really fun to think about. I mean, I forget who I was talking to the other day, but I was, the radio. Oh, I was talking to Mikkel from this band called the Airborne Toxic, but we were talking about the radio and the American terrestrial radio system, which is sort of overwrought and full of commercials, and it never made its way into our car because our parents both had so much music they wanted to introduce us to that they would just make mix CDs and we'd listen to that in the car. So terrestrial radio was not as much a part of my childhood, I think, because it was being filtered through my parents. It was like they were listening to radio for an hour and going, hey, I heard this great song by this artist Lord called Royals, you should check it out. And we would check it out and we'd love it, you know what I mean? But I think it was like I always appreciated that from them because it just meant that we didn't have to sit and listen to like radio jingles and how to get your what's that, like your mattress is free, like all those weird like commercials that you hear a million times.
That's one part of the reason I took the ads off this podcast. I think they sometimes add them the odd time, but I just like, no. I'm sorry, my friends, I'm not putting ads. Like I think I did a couple of reads at the start where I was like, I'll not kick the companies in the balls, like, but I was just like, nah, fuck this. I can't.
We just started putting ads on the podcast that I do, and my philosophy behind it is that everybody just skips them because you just go like skip the ads. Like as soon as they take that away, like you remember when YouTube suddenly was like, this, you can't skip this ad, and everyone was like, oh no, and then we all got YouTube Premium or whatever. Like I feel like as soon as that happens with podcasting, and I think we're probably like right on the tipping point of it, where you can't just like skip through an ad.
I'm still fighting it. I'm still fighting it. I still haven't got YouTube Premium. I'm like going and
dog. It's so much better. Why? Why?
I was watching something yesterday, and I was watching it in my room, like upstairs, and my wife, like when I came downstairs, she was like, "Who are you fighting with upstairs?" I watched the video where the same ad came up at the start, the middle, and the end. And I just started shouting. It's like, fuck off with your stupid business course. I don't want to fucking do it.
Phil, I assume you make more than 10 pounds a month. So
Yeah.
I'd advise. I think you should get it.
Yeah.
It's worth
So
doing.